Welcome, ladies and gents, to The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 9 review. It's over, it's done, this is the season finale. So I'll be reviewing the episode and I guess reviewing the season on a whole. Just how it wraps up and how this episode pertains to all of that. Now, it's good episode on a whole. Pedro Pascal truly carries the episode. It's a bit of a light switch moment in this whole sort of season. You know, we saw him last episode, close to death, given multiple shots of penicillin, goes on his mild rampage, although in the games I hear it's a mega rampage. We start out this episode with him very, very chatty, very talkative, and he truly carries the show. His acting range is great. This episode, again, like I said, is a bit of a light switch moment. It's him learning to embrace his feelings now. To embrace the fact that he's been looking after Ellie and she has healed him for all intents and purposes. And there's even dialogue in the episode pertaining to that, you know, as a motive for his sort of chit-chattiness now. He was the guy that shot himself. He was the guy that missed. And, you know, he says there's no story. There's no, you know, oh, Ellie, I get it. You know, it's time heals all. And he goes, no, it wasn't time. And there's like two beats between him and Ellie where she goes, yeah, I get it. It was me. I healed that wound. And that was a really touching moment. And then, of course, he goes, they find themselves at the Fireflies. And if you played the games, you'll know. But they basically go to operate on Ellie, taking the cordyceps out of her in the brain. Basically going to kill her. And Joel learns of this and goes on a major rampage. This is probably going to be the Joel from the games that people remember. He was brutal. Unflinching. Brutality. Strength of conviction, all there. Just, I don't have time for this. Pop, pop. Dead. No questions. Pop. Dead. Pop. Dead. Pop. People surrendering. No. Dead. Gone. Bye. Dead. Please spare me. No, you'll just come after her. Pop. Dead. Good. After the build-up and the emotional weight behind all of this stuff, if this wasn't the avenue they took, it would be terrible storytelling. You know, yeah, sure, like a subversion of expectations, perhaps, but it would have been really bad storytelling. So I'm glad that they did this. Again, I'm not unfamiliar with the games. I'm sure lots of people will say this is literally how they did it in the games. Cool, perfect. He then grabs Ellie and lies to her. Because Marlene, the Firefly leader, essentially says, you know she would want this. And he's like, no. It's selfishness at the end of the day. And it all relates back to that conversation he had with Ellie. She healed him. Not time, and he doesn't want to give that up. He's now, for all intents and purposes, her father. And he's talking to her like he's her father. We're going to go home, we're going to do this, I'm here, blah, blah, blah. And it's selfishness, but it's fatherly selfishness. And it's quite touching. Bella Ramsey in this is the polar opposite to Joel. It's almost like they switched places this episode. So she starts out not really that chatty, distant, literally just not there, nonplussed. It's not a great depiction of that mental state. It almost comes across nonchalant and a bit bratty, although that might be too harsh of a word to use, but it's very nonchalant and could have been depicted a little bit better. That sort of distant attitude. Well, that case in point, that word there, attitude, it comes across like a child with attitude, not someone who has been through trauma. Stereotypical appearance of being through trauma, anyway. And then, of course, the episode comes to a close, and she asks Joel whether, you know, what he said about the Fireflies, raiders came, killed them all, etc., was true. And he lies. He out and out lies. I didn't really fully buy the interaction, and it's not Pedro Pascal. He is a great actor. He's stellar in this, very, very good. I buy 99% of what he does. I'm not going to say 100%. I can't put a finger on what I wouldn't buy. I can't remember it, but I'm just not going to say it 100%. I just don't commit to that. But he was very good. I buy him. Bella Ramsey in this, I'm not 100% convinced of her acting ability for this role. The role has lots of depths and layers, and I'm sure she's very good at many other things. I think maybe it's a combination of her as an actor or poor direction, one of the two. But I just didn't fully buy it, and I think that's a shame, but it is what it is. C'est la vie. Now, that's the episode done. There was one infected at the start. We find out how Ellie was born, and basically why she's immune. She was born after being infected. It obviously crossed over into her cells, her bloodstream, and that's basically it, right? Her mother was infected, she gets killed, etc. That's it, it's done. There was one infected. I feel like the marketing, good episode, but let's review the whole season. The marketing for this show was very poor in terms of misdirecting you. This is a strong character piece, and it's very good at being a character piece. But the marketing puts it more in line with a stereotypical zombie horror post-apocalyptic flick. Now those kind of series always do have strong characters in them. They have character studies, breakdowns, emotional elements and things like that. But they always have the infected as the backdrop to it. And they work an episode around it. It's somewhat procedural, but that's how they do it, and that's how they sold this show. And I feel like people will be really let down that 9 episodes in, we barely saw any monsters, right? I feel like people will be like that. I don't know how people who have played the game will compare all of this, so if you played the game, let me know what you thought of overall the season. I'd love to hear it. But again, like I said, I do feel like they missold it. False advertisement to some degree. They missold it as something which was heavily representative of a zombie horror post-apocalyptic flick, and it's come up short on that basis. However, it's a very, very good character study, emotional character piece between essentially a father and a daughter in a post-apocalyptic backdrop. So overall, I liked the show. Could have been better. Could have had more scary, tense moments. And I feel like maybe they condensed it down too much, and that's why you didn't get that. I could be wrong. Maybe by comparison to the game, it's a bit different. But from how they advertised it, said that weird, versus the show that we got, it is a letdown under that premise because I was expecting more. And maybe that's poor judgment on my part because I was expecting more and I shouldn't have expected anything. But when you advertise very heavily and prominently a horror theme in your trailer, I expect more horror elements in your product. So, liked it overall. Very good, very enjoyable. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, I'd have to give it a 6, maybe a 7 out of 10. And the only reason is that it's the misrepresentation of what the overall show was going to end up being as a product. As a show itself, as a character piece, it's a strong 7 and 8. But the misrepresentation stuff gives it a letdown. So there you go. No more weekly Last of Us reviews. I know not everyone likes these. Not everyone likes the show. But as a whole, I had a thoroughly good time watching this on a weekly basis. I will be intrigued to see where they go with this. There were some subtle Easter eggs in this. The actor who plays Abby was one of the nurses, I believe. And obviously, that's moving forwards into the next season, isn't it? Abby. Goddamn. Anyway, let me know what you think down below. I'd love to hear it. Cheers, ladies and gents. Take care.